I've always tried to be associated with more complex things than just be in my comfort zone.
The decisions that the financial department takes, it affects everything. The profit, the loss, or the investments that will go in, the new expansion.
The CFO is one of the only C-suite which reports into the CEO, but is accountable to the board as well.
You've been named top 100 CFO 3 years in the running. That's an amazing achievement. What's one belief or mindset that's been non-negotiable in getting you where you are today?
Maximum learning happens when the decision goes against you or when you are going through a rough phase.
What's the biggest pain point of CFOs that they face today that nobody talks about openly?
Thank you for having me here. It was a wonderful experience. The questions you asked were very, very pertinent. I think it is a very, very good platform. I'm really happy to be part of it.
Hi everyone, I'm Mohsinaa, founder of Quantum Leaders Program and Self-Discovery Podcast. Welcome to Self-Discovery Podcast, a space where we uncover the mindset, beliefs, and inner evolution of leaders who are redefining what true leadership looks like from the inside out. Today in this episode of Self-Discovery Podcast, we are joined by Chandra Vikram Prahladka, distinguished technocrat and strategic finance leader with over 25 years of global experience spanning finance, management, and corporate transformation. Having served in CXO level roles, including CFO and director for more than 15 years, he is known for driving complex financial strategies, large-scale fundraising, and high-impact mergers and acquisitions across diverse industries. Throughout his career, Chandra has successfully executed financial deals and investment exceeding $2 billion across India, the Middle East, Europe, Africa, and the United States. His expertise includes IPO management, private equity investments and exits, debt restructuring, treasury management, and strategic business expansion. He has led to significant capital raising initiatives, including $450 million in refinancing and the likes. Among his notable achievements, Chandra has led equity dilution transaction with global equity firms, managed large-scale financial restructuring, and contributed to the merger of the National Bank of Dubai and Emirates Bank International, one of the largest banking mergers in the Middle East. Recognized for his leadership in finance, he has been listed among the top 100 CFOs in India for 3 consecutive years from 2020 to 2022 and was honored with the CFO of the Year award in 2020. His work reflects a powerful blend of technical expertise, strategic foresights, and transformative leadership. Hi Chandra, welcome to Self-Discovery Podcast. How are you today?
Hi, Mohsinaa. Thank you. I'm good. I hope all of you are staying safe. Thank you for having me here today.
You started in consulting, moved into F&B in Devyani, and scaled agricultural at Sarvabgram. Now you're driving GCC finance at Choitrams. It's not a straight line. There are many divergences that has happened. What was one pivotal decision that completely changed the trajectory of your career?
Very good question, Mohsinaa. And a lot of times people ask me that as well. As I said, I started with consulting, and consulting is treated as safe, comfort, everything, a decent exposure as well. And why will people leave consulting and move to industry? But one thing which, when I was in consulting, I used to ask myself, will I be learning sitting outside, or will I be able to learn more when I'm part of that industry and able to contribute more? And actually, that's what I led. That consulting is you influence, you advise, but you are not part of the decisions, or you don't live with the decisions. Yeah. So that is why I took that step of moving to the industries. And I always thought that fastest way to grow was to put yourself or throw yourself into an environment where their problems are much more than the solutions which you have, or more than your toolkit. And that's when you try to reinvent yourself and try to work out for the organization. Now, I'll give you one example there. When I was used to work with in a company called Binani Industries, and amazing owner. I haven't seen such kind of polite and composed owner. Maybe I'm now with Choitrams for 2.5 years. Both of them I see equally same measure. But that person, had built the empire on his own, and he used to tell me that he have ideas, he can keep building that, but for that he needs people, and that is why one needs to be very, very composed as well. And the best way to think is if you start thinking that it's your own firm. And that's when you start making decisions. And
That's
then
right.
if you get more than an employee, you're thinking like, and he never treated me like an employee. It was always, I was almost somewhere between an employee and his family member, which obviously gave confidence as well. And that's when I
Right.
started executing more. I think, and one good advantage for finance is, finance is industry agnostic. The
Mhm.
processes remain the same, just the revenue driver and the cost driver changes. So you are able to adapt much faster. You are maybe stronger on your feet as well. One thing which I did, or maybe I learned, was I've always tried to be more associated with more complex things than just be in my comfort zone. And I always thought that more complex things always gives you a higher skill sets. You tend to learn more as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be called a CFO who played safe, Because of those things, I think the question which you asked, it's not a straight line. I've been able to go get into different kind of atmosphere, different field, and
Yes.
I add value to those organizations.
The emphasis that you have given on the respect that an employer gives and the trust that an employer actually gives to the employee to understand and to take the ownership that this is my firm and I'm going to do what is best for it. So the
Yes,
freedom is also important, and you have received it. And that is the reason why I believe you're sharing this story,
absolutely.
your
Absolutely.
experience. Now you're in Choitram. It
Yes.
has been a Middle East institution since the 1970s, but today it's clearly evolving into something absolutely much bigger than how it started. As the CFO steering that growth across GCC, what's the boldest financial move you have made to accelerate Choitram's expansion?
When I joined the firm about 2.5 years back, obviously everyone wants to expand, right? Everyone wants to
Right.
grow the top line. That is the main motive of any organization. So we
Mhm.
also had that. But
Mhm.
what I did here was balancing that out when I joined. I said we will not only chase top line, but we also need to ensure that those expansion plan or addition of stores or brands adds to our bottom line as well. Because what
Right.
was happening is before I joined, we were just chasing top line,
Mhm.
which was not helping us. Obviously, we became a larger organization, but it was not helping us in the profitability sector. So
Right.
we rationalized a lot of brands, a lot of stores, which were not
Mhm.
making money for us. In fact, I'll
Mhm.
give you one example. We have operations across the GCC in UAE, in Bahrain, Oman, and Qatar. Oman, we
Mhm.
only have distribution. We had the distribution ship of Coca-Cola there. Unfortunately, top line was great, but we were not making money. And
Mhm.
we decided that no, we need to give this business back. We cannot be doing this business and just losing money.
Right.
So obviously, there was a lot of conflict. There was a lot of from the board. They didn't want to do that. But I think we finally managed to convince them. And then the board realized that what we are trying to do is better for the group and the company. I think that's the makeshift which I'm seeing now. Now, all those changes which we are doing, we don't just look at the top line, we look at how much it will add to our bottom line as well.
That's absolutely true. So, when we see finance, finance is usually a backdrop kind of a department in any company, okay? But at the
Mm.
same time, it is so important that, the decisions that the finance department takes, it affects everything, the profit, the loss, or the investments that will go in, the new expansion. So, you being in the finance space since such a long time, what is your take in terms of three things, three mindset, if you can share with us, that you go ahead or you started with when you said that, okay, fine, I'll be in the financial domain? So, what are the three things that works for you whenever you make financial decisions?
See, as you rightly said, finance is the backbone of the organization, right?
Yeah.
And it's more of a trust department and a control department. People think when you're in finance, you are taking care of everything, and as you can say, last minute check, right? So that obviously adds a lot of responsibility. So you
Mhm.
have to ensure that the control is done. You should not be able to let down anyone because they are placing that trust. But at the same time, what approach which I have adopted always is, I said, okay, I don't want to be a normal finance guy or normal CFO who keeps saying no to everything.
Mhm.
No, because it's a perception that finance guys always are blockers and they always say no. And I said,
Right.
no, we will not do that. What approach I should be taking is, I will always ask, okay, this is what you want. This is, I think I will make it work, and remaining within the compliance framework. Obviously, I can't go out of the box. Within the box, whatever I can do, I will
Mhm.
do it. and I will ensure that this happens. Instead of saying, sorry, this won't happen.
Yeah.
Because we all know we will grow when the organization grows. The easiest thing is to say, no, sorry, this won't happen.
Yeah.
But is that helpful for the organization? It is not. If everyone was saying that, Choitram wouldn't be in the same scale as what is today. So that's what I always believe, that the approach which I take is you should find a solution and get it done within the compliance framework without compromising the control factors and the credibility or the ethicality.
Right.
And just not be saying just no to everything.
That's absolutely right. You've been named top 100 CFO 3 years in the running. That's an amazing achievement. What's one belief or mindset that's been non-negotiable in getting you where you are today?
The point which you raised earlier, I think that it will flow into this point as well, that one thing which I've been able to see is maintaining the control function which is there for finance, getting the trust, but always, obviously not compromising on that, not compromising on the ethical standards as well, but ensuring that organizations keeps growing without me saying no every time. Basically trying to find a solution within the compliance framework. As I said, the most easiest thing is just say no. But will the CEO or will the owners like that? I don't think so. But then you should be able to say no as well when you think it's not right. I have always believed that I cannot be yes man, and I'm not a yes man as well. But at the same time, ensure that find a solution so that be able to achieve the goals. And as I said earlier, instead of being a blocker, be a partner and see how it can be a value creator. I'll give you one small example. When I joined CFO of Shobha Developers, maybe 10 years back, and the team was obviously was there for quite some time, and they were quite rigid in their approach of, suppose someone has to submit their reimbursements and if 15th was the deadline, and by 6 o'clock, if they don't get it, they will say, sorry, go next cycle. Now, when I came and some people came to me and said, can we look into it? And I told my team that, okay, let's change it. Let's give them some flexibility. Instead of 6 o'clock, maybe let's make it 10 o'clock. Okay. Or maybe 8 o'clock. He said that if you do it, the sales guy will be so super motivated that he will ensure that finance team is helping them. He will go and ensure that he will do double his job and sell, because if the sales don't happen, the company might get closed down and we all might lose our jobs. But if that happens, he or she will try and put double the effort.
That's
so I think that mindset, instead of acting as again, I'm just using the same words, being a blocker or this thing, acting as a partner and trying to see how we can help grow, has helped me in my mindset and change the mindset of the team as well. And this is what generally I keep saying, that is non-negotiable. You meet the deadlines, do the task, but act as a partner to the firm, to the business, basically.
So this small decision of yours and this small suggestion, actually, it motivated, I'm sure, the whole sales team, because that edge came, where the company is with us. Okay,
absolutely, exactly. So the same person who was selling 10 units, next month was selling 20 units.
Wow.
That's the kind of change it happened, because he said, okay, and times it happens, people forget, they are busy with clients, they don't submit their reimbursements. I'm just giving this example. And I told my team that if you help him with 2 hours, in return, he'll give you 20 or 50 hours. And it always helps the organization.
Yes. That little bit of support, I think it goes a long way in not just performance, but also retention of employees, where they feel cared for. Thank you for sharing this on my platform.
My pleasure.
Please tell me this. So what's the biggest pain point of CFOs that they face today that nobody talks about openly?
I've been doing CFO role for the last 15 years, maybe 16 years now. You have normal day-to-day things where you get bogged down. There's a lot of firefighting which happens. You have a lot of frustration because of number of things. But I think those are just part and parcel. But I think the biggest thing, in my view, and I've seen across industries, across sectors, is, I'll say, the loneliness of the chair. The CFO, the role is such that a CFO is one of the only C-suite which reports into the CEO, but is accountable to the board as well, wherein the board asks it to act as a control function, at times including on the CEO as well. So there's a big conflict, right? You are reporting to someone and you have to check that person as well. So it is not easy to manage. I think not many people will talk about it, and not many people become a yes man at that time, because what they do is, because they're reporting to CEO, they have to oblige or they have to comply with what CEO is saying. And in that, the CFO then loses out doing the real responsibility, which is basically responsible to the firm because he or she is the custodian, right?
Yes.
So I think that conflict at times becomes a very, very big pain point, which has to be managed pretty well. I think so far, I think I've done very well because people realize that my nature, my DNA is that I call a spade a spade. And I always believe that difference of opinion is a good thing because which means
Yes.
people are thinking for the betterment of the organization. If everyone starts saying yes to one guy who says, suppose in this case, the CEO, or if I'm chairing the meeting, if everyone starts saying yes to me, then maybe it is sometimes it might be true, but every time it can't be there. Everyone will have their some difference of opinion. And if there's no difference of opinion, then the question which comes is the team thinking for the organization? Uh, so I think so that definitely I've been able to do in decently enough, I'll say. But I think that's the pain point always which comes across as a role of a CFO.
No, absolutely. Kudos to you. That is the reason why I think people trust you in terms of the designations and also the responsibilities that comes along with it. And you are having a upward curve in terms of your growth. Chandra, please tell me here, you built your own consulting practice before stepping back into full-time leadership roles. Okay.
Right.
What would you say to professionals who feel that choosing employment over entrepreneurship is a step backward? Do you think it's a step backward, first of all? Okay. And rather than a conscious or a strategic choice for their own growth, is it something that a person should choose on the basis of their capabilities or the basis of that, what the trend is in the market?
I don't think it's a step backwards. I think every time I've taken a decision to be based on strategic and with the growth mindset. Like I said earlier, consulting is a very safe, comfortable types. You influence, you advise, but you don't live with the decisions, right? And those decisions sometimes will go against you and will go in for you, but you still need to live with that. I always say this, maximum learning happens when the decision goes against you or when you are going through a rough phase. When everything is hunky-dory, then you don't learn that much, right? You learn more when things are not going the way you expect. That's when you start reinventing yourself. And that is what I think in the corporates, maybe it can be any type of corporate. And when you make the decisions and those don't go as what you think, that's when the learning happens. So for every individual, I think they need to think that where will they grow and where will they get more benefit? Will they grow as a consultant or will they grow when they join an organization? And it may not be a large organization. It can be startup as well. So I worked in startup and I think the startup mindset completely changes the horizon of the people. It actually brings it down to earth as well. In startup, I have done things which I would have done in maybe in my whole career, or maybe if I had to do maybe in early part of my career because the team was not there. You were literally doing all the transaction roles as well. So because of that, you get that ability of flexibility, even the grassroots levels, step by step, you are aware of that, and it's very difficult for people to challenge you then. So I think it always becomes, I will never say it's a step backwards. It's always a learning curve, and one should look into it that where they think can learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. And to each his own. It's like, what capability you can cultivate. And like you said, failure and those resistance that you get, you learn the most, during
Absolutely.
those times.
You must have seen this famous video of a cricket commentator, Harsha Bogle, and he
Yeah.
keeps saying this, especially on the failure. He said, I don't know how true it is. I'm just going by what he said. In Australian military, they don't select people who have not failed. They select people only if you have failed and you're able to bounce back. Because, when everything is going, as I said, very successful, very hunky-dory, you don't know how to react when you fail. But when you fail and you bounce back, that shows the resilience. And that's when it's required in any kind of job, And that's why Australian military selects people only who have a track record of failure and coming back.
Absolutely, because that is what builds resilience and integrity and depth in a person. Chandra, thank you so much for this insightful and, full of lessons through stories that you have shared with us in this podcast. And thank you for joining in.
Thank you for having me here. It was a wonderful experience. The questions you asked were very, very pertinent. And I think you have gone through my, I'll say, achievements or my CV in detail, where you picked up number of things. And if someone doesn't go in detail, it's not easy to pick those things this out. I think you have been able to frame the questions very well. I think it is a very, very good platform. I'm really happy to be part of it.